It is now entirely true. We have a Labour, Liberal Democrat and Conservative Party who on the key issues that affect people's lives are indistinguishable from each other. There is an absolute and urgent need for a party like UKIP that has got the guts to stand up and say what most people think. Is it any wonder? Is it any wonder that there are now 9 million people who voted in 1992 but now do not participate in general elections? They are the disenchanted. They are the disgusted. They are people who don't feel there's anybody in Westminster to speak for them. And you know, I'm one of them. That's why I'm in UKIP, because I could not see the point of voting for any of those parties. And what would the point be when we've got to the state where 75% of our laws in Britain aren't even made for the men and women we vote for and send to Westminster? They're made for us by the European Union, and there is nothing that the British Parliament or people can do about that legislation, because what Mr. Heath signed us up to wasn't just a common trading market, was it? It was a political union with a court whose authority is greater than ours. So that's what we've come to. The difficulty right at the moment is that the public don't quite understand the extent to which our ability to govern ourselves has been given away. They sense something's wrong, but the media are not giving people the full story.
They don't dare.
You know, just think, let's go back over the course of the last month. September the 18th, there was a new law that came in about booster seats for children up to the age of 12. Do you remember that? It was a front page story. It ran on the news all day. We're told that now there'll be police waiting outside primary and secondary schools to make sure that mothers are in compliance. Well, I suppose it makes sense, as all other crime has clearly been solved. But an enormous story about the cost to people, apart from Halfords, of course. And perhaps Bruce's stores sell booster seats, I'm not sure. But the point is, a huge news story with politicians from various parties commenting, but not once, anywhere in the media were we told that this had nothing to do with the UK government. This was purely a piece of European law. And you fast forward a couple of weeks to the age discrimination laws, which Bruce is talking about so beautifully, and how impossible and impracticable they are. And yet I listened that morning to the Today programme on Radio 4. It was the lead story on the hour, every hour. There was even a 15-minute interview with Alistair Darling about the legislation, with Darling defending the legislation, and Naughtie putting various questions to him. And yet at no point did the BBC, a public service broadcaster, yeah, well, they are, to whom from next year we will all have to pay £131.50, at not one stage did the BBC question the minister and make it clear that actually it wasn't his legislation anyway, was it? All he was doing was the bidding of the European Union. And then yesterday, the front page story on the Daily Telegraph was that there are now to be health warnings on wine bottles. I don't need a health warning to tell me. I know that red wine's good for me. It's as simple as that. But once again, a massive news story that we're all to be told that excessive boozing is bad for us, and people debating whether it's a good thing to have the warnings or whether it's a bad thing to have the warnings, but nowhere, not anywhere, is anyone telling us what the source of this legislation is. And I was amused when Bruce read out the names of local MPs who'd been supportive, you know, Breed and all the rest of them. Well, they might sound supportive, but none of them are being honest enough to say that there's nothing they can do about it, because once something has become law in this country, via a European directive, There's nothing the British government, there's nothing the British Parliament, there's nothing the British people can do to overturn it. So whilst we've come an enormous way as a party in educating the British people about the dangers of European Union, in urging the British people to stand up and fight for themselves, we've achieved a lot. As Malcolm said earlier, people like James Goldsmith and UKIP, without us, we'd have had the euro. Without us, we'd have had the Constitution foisted upon us. So we've done a tremendous amount to fight a rearguard, if you like, to stave off, to delay. But we've got to get this further truth out to the British people. We've got to show them that the Westminster politicians are not admitting their own impotence to us, and we have got to put in the minds and in the hearts of the British people this feeling that we must take back the ability to govern ourselves and to be the masters of our own destiny. And no longer will UKIP just be seen as a party that is against something. We will now be seen as a party that is for something. We had to be against to begin. We had to issue warnings. We had to try and wake people up as to the true nature of the project. But now that a majority of the British population, 62% in the last survey, said they supported the UKIP position, that they would prefer us to have a free trade deal with our European neighbours rather than be part of full political union, now is the time for us to seize this positive initiative. And I'm certain from all of my visits to schools, to sixth form colleges, to technical colleges and to universities, I'm certain that there is a younger generation out there, in fact in this and every other country of Europe, who are only too happy, will be only too keen to do away with the legacy of their parents' and grandparents' generation, i.e. getting rid of their national identity, getting rid of their countries and devaluing their democracy. So this is going to be a positive UKIP. This is going to be the party that will stand up unashamedly, free from political correctness, and we will talk about governing ourselves. And we will talk openly and honestly on questions such as immigration. We've got to a point now where the truth must be told. We cannot have our own immigration policy. We cannot control our own borders and stay part of the European Union. Let's get that truth out there to the British people. Because the whole point of European Union is that it means the free movement, not just of goods and services, but the free movement of peoples. And we don't have embarkation controls at our ports, do we? No, the Conservative Party in 1994 did away with them. So we will be out there and we'll show to the British people that you do not have to be an extremist or a BNP type to stand up openly and honestly and to talk about having a proper immigration policy. UKIP will do that.
To find out more about who we are and what we stand for, go to the UK Independence Party website at www.ukip.org.